Oh, Baruch Hashem. Now can you guys hear me? Very good. Yeah? Can everybody hear? I hope you can hear. Okay, fine. So we're holding on the mimer on Ois Vav. Um, we were speaking about, what were we speaking about? We're speaking about Kisikna Abadibri, that the idea of Kinyan is to bring from a concealed state to a revealed state. This that was previously concealed and hidden has to be brought out in a way of revelation. The level of the world of Atzilus, which is Koinech, Moshe Rabbeinu brings it down even into us that are considered avodim, that are considered servants. He brings it out into a revealed way to us. So now we're going to speak about Moshe Rabbeinu doing this, but even without Moshe personally doing this. So we're going to start on page Yud Dalid, Ois Vav, I believe is where we left off. Um, let's see if that's what it says. Right, page 10 of the printouts. The general idea that you will acquire an Avadiv that happens through Moshe. It's the level of Moshe that's in every single Yid. Concerning this, it says, what does Hashem, your God, ask from you? Only to fear him. Meaning, in comparison to the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, that's within every single Yid, Yira is called a minor thing. It's not something that's a difficult thing. It's not a hard thing. Why is that so? Because there's a Moshe Rabbeinu within each and every one of us, and therefore it's possible for each one to have this Yira that we're saying, what does Hashem ask of you? Not a big deal. He's only asking you to have Yira. So my fear top of page as well. This idea of the this idea that we're saying that there's a Moshe Rabbeinu within each and every one, that is the idea that the by every single Yid is the idea of bit. Giselle and Yonishal Moshe. Moshe is the one that is the example, the forerunner, the expression of the idea of bit. And therefore, every single Yid that has Moshe within them has the level of bittul. Like Moshe said, and we are what? What showing on the level of bittul? That's their level. Their level is complete state of bit. It's the power of self-sacrifice for sanctifying Hashem's name. That's to be found in every single Yid. Where do we see this bittul? Even though it might not be evident every single moment of every single day, but that potential bittul is there in the fact that when it's necessary, so then it comes out and expresses itself in the Mesiras Nefesh that every Yid is ready and willing to give up his life for Hashem. Line 4. I feel the culture of the even the most lightest and the most not performing of Torah mitzvahs, even the most lenient of fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, gives up his life for the sanctification of Hashem's name, and without any meditation whatsoever. In other words, he doesn't have to bring himself to this through meditating and through thinking about Hashem's greatness and so on. And definitely he doesn't need to have a lengthy meditation and say, oh, what should I do? Should I bow down to Avodah Zarah, or should I be willing to give up my life? Example, if this is understood. That this is standing ready from the fact that the person doesn't need to meditate to bring this out. So this shows that this is just under the surface. This is something that's ready by him. It's only that, but when does it actually manifest itself? When it comes to a case of self-sacrifice. Our job is to take that just under the surface self-sacrifice, that bittul, that Moshe Rabbeinu within us, and bring it out and manifest it all the time. In every single thing. It should be revealed in all matters. For example, in this very pasuk, we have a hint about how the bittul of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is in every year, needs to express itself in seemingly minor matters. The Chazal say on this pasuk, what does Hashem ask from you? So the what is the word ma. So they say do not read it as a ma, but read it as meya, 100. In the ma tzarich is nimshach when it's gal when meya berachot tzarich levarach kol yoyim. This bittul of ma needs to be drawn down and become revealed in the 100 brachas that a person needs to make and say a bracha on every single day. Before, but my Like explain the Maimer the Rebbe Marash, beginning with the title to understand the matter of brachas. Over there, he speaks about why the Chazal say and connect. What does Hashem ask of you? To fear, with the idea that they derive from this pasuk that a person needs to make 100 brachas every day, because this bittul, this ma, this Moshe Rabbeinu needs to manifest in down to earth practical things into making 100 brachas every single day, as well as other aspects and components of a person's Jewish life. By days, Nasa Etzlaim. When the bittul that's in the person comes down and permeates the person and becomes part of the person in all of his aspects, so then his entire avodah is of a different form completely than all the time. It is of a different quality. It's a different level of all the time. So he says, for example, similar to what's explained in a different place about what Chazal say that tshuva u'maisim tovim. It says tshuva and good deeds. Why does it say tshuva and good deeds? What's the idea of saying tshuva and good deeds? Seemingly, it should say good deeds, and if Chas v'Shalom, a person doesn't do what's right, so then he has plan B, he has tshuva. So it says, through first prefacing our good deeds with tshuva, so then his actions change and become good actions and illuminating actions. So in other words, there could be ma'asim, there could be actions of mitzvahs. That the actions of mitzvahs are not good in the sense they're not luminous, they're not in a very great quality. Toiv is always associated with light, as it says, that Hashem saw the light and it was good. So light and goodness are interchangeable. So when it says ma'asim toivim, that means that our ma'asim, our actions, our mitzvahs are luminous mitzvahs. How are these luminous mitzvahs in such a way that it is luminous and not just ordinary mitzvahs? It's first one preceded by tshuva. This is given as an example of the bittul that a person has. That even though every yid has a latent, dormant bittul within them, they're willing to give up their lives for Kiddush Hashem. But when we manifest and we reveal that bittul and we draw it down in our day-to-day life, so then we ensure that our day-to-day life is now our regular avodah, our regular Torah mitzvahs, is now of a totally different caliber, just like tshuva makes sure that the meisim should be tovim me'irim, so to the bittul that we bring to it, make sure that it's beautiful as well. Line 21. That's also the general idea of the service of a servant. But Ivri, that we were talking about in our parsha about the Eved Ivrim, Shulin Bittl's idea of nullification. The servant is not a separate entity for himself whatsoever. Like before, but Rashba, top of page Zayin, like it's explained in the Rashba, the Inyan Mashakona Eved Kona Rabbak. There is a halacha that if a servant acquires something, automatically the master acquires it. So the Rashba explains what does that mean that the automatically the master acquires it. It doesn't mean that initially the servant acquires it his own. And then by days when the servant acquires it on his own, then his master acquires it. But initially he acquires it for his master. His hand is an extension of the master's hand, and it's already acquired by his master the moment it like touches the servant's hand or reaches the servant's possession. The fisha eved ein mitzias klal, because the servant is not a separate being whatsoever. He's not a separate entity at all. So he goes on and says, Tzad inyan bittul, because the idea of bittul yesh ma'ila gam l'kavod, there's an advantage of the servant also over a child. The difference between a servant and a son is, even though beforehand, if you remember, we said that the level of ben is the way the neshama is above, and the level of servant is the way the neshama is down here below in our world. So one or Atzilus versus beyond. So one would think that the servant is lower and the son is higher. So the Rebbe can explain in this regard of the bittul component of the servant, it's much greater than the son. He says, Ben Yesh the son has a connection, an association with the father. Let's explain in Tanya, that the son comes from the droplet of the brain of the father. For this reason, the father brings down for his son in 5 matters. He makes for his son 5 components and aspects, like it's brought down the Mishnayos over there. He gives him his power, he gives him his beauty, etc., etc. Why is that so? Because he comes from the very Father itself. But because he comes from the very Father itself, he's very close to the Father. Therefore, Mishum Zeh, now Bittul Shloilo Aviv, Eina B'tachos, his Bittul to his Father is not a total and complete bit. She'enkein Eved, as opposed to a servant, Shemitziusai, that his existence is not from the existence of the master. The servant and the master are completely separate. They have no closeness whatsoever. But just that very reason, because they are not related and they have no closeness, therefore, because of that, bittul shalom b'tachlis, his bittul is total. That's the true idea of bowing down. Bittul, that's the idea of bittul. Like we spoke about, that they used to come 3 times a year to see and to bow down. So bowing down indicates the level of bit. This is only when there's no recognition to the one that's bowing down in the advantage and the quality of the one that is bowing down to them. When he does have a recognition in the person's quality. In other words, when the person that's bowing down recognizes, this is a great person, it's not true bittul. If Bittul means I place my recognitions and my perceptions on the side. If I perceive the greatness of a person, it's not true bowing down. It's not true bittul. Only when the one who's bowing down has no recognition in the advantage and quality of the one who he's bowing down to. So then the bittul is an inner bittul, it's a true bittul, it's an essential bittul. By Dezeh, from this bittul that we are manifesting now in our avodah, and it's supposed to come down in everything that we're doing now. We come to the perfect idea of bittul, the way it's going to be in the future. This is what it says in the pasuk that we spoke about in the title of the Maimer. That's in this week's Haftarah. It will be every single month. All flesh will come to bow down before me. This is the new type of avodah of Mashiach's times. In a way of bowing down, in a manner of total bit. Calls it told it Masein or the Saint of Mesha called his all that is dependent on our actions and service throughout the 6,000 years that the world exists. But throughout the Mesha's Managals, especially throughout the time of exile. Avoid this para when we have the difficult type of labor. The difficult labor is indicative as well of the general idea of service of Hashem. Our service of Hashem is in such a way that it's very difficult and very hard to do. Beloshin, Iris Avodim. Avoid this from the word that you are reworking the tides. We know that someone that's a tanner, because of how disgusting the smell is and so on, therefore he cannot be neither a king and neither a kohen, because they both need to be people that are respectable and are people that bring forth a manner that people look up to them. So we see how difficult and how low avodah is, that when you're talking about working hides, it's something that brings something very, very low, if you will, in the equation. So Klolis in top page design the name mitzvah Torah, that mitzvah is a candle and the Torah is light. That's the avodah that's from the perspective of vessels. There's the idea of nature. And he breaks nature. Because the avodah that comes with Kalim is that there's something outside of Holocaust and you need to like subjugate. So in this that's the idea of sublimating and subjugating the Sitra Achra. By days in through that the light can come down. So in inhabitively this idea of the Hebrew servant. The advantage of his avoid is because the idea of bittul. Kanal, the miles, bittul the evet, bittul the evet. Like we spoke previously about the advantage of the bittul of a servant over the bittul of a son. So that is the evet ivri. That's the advantage of the avoid in the time of Golus. That is even more so in this type of way. Days of point like you lead the lost love through this, we come to the revelation of Mashiach's times. That will be in a much greater level of revelation than the times of the Beis Hamikdash. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, we only went up to Beis Hamikdash. Only 3 times a year was the obligation to go up Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. The Shol Torah also love it the Beis Hamikdash. The Chol Shabbos Rish Chodesh. But in the future, the going up to the Beis Hamikdash will be more often. It will be every Shabbos and every Rish Chodesh. So the Rebbe is going to explain the significance of Shabbos and going up to the Beis Hamikdash and Rish Chodesh. Is Daled, line 14. The idea behind this is the L'chora and you move simply it's not understood. Now, what time Shvezman Abai is Hoysa Aliyah L'Regel Rak B'Yomtiv? What's the reason that at the time to the base of Migdash, the going up was only on Yom Tov, the light b'Shabbos and not b'Shabbos. If we look at it, Yom Tov, as we know, is spiritually not on the same high level like Shabbos. You could see it first of all from the prohibitions of Shabbos. That on Shabbos, there's much more things that are prohibited than Yom Tov. But let's look at it from a Chassidus perspective. Yom Tov is only a calling and a drawing down from the level of Kodesh. Calling is like when you call someone, you're drawing them to you. The same thing on Yom Tov, it's Mikroi Kodesh. It's calling from the level of Kodesh. It itself is not on the level of Kodesh, holiness itself. Whatever that level is, we'll soon discuss. The Shabbos, Shabbos is the level of holiness, which the word holiness, as opposed to Kadosh, is a separate word. Kadosh is a connector word. You say about something, it is Kadosh. Kodesh is holiness. It's a separate word on its own. So that shows that's a very high level of holiness. It's a holiness that doesn't connect to anything. And that's Shabbos. Whereas Yom Tov is only Mikroi Kodesh. So if Yom Tov, we have the time, we have the Aliyah L'Regel, the Bittul, and so on. Shouldn't Shabbos be even more so? And now he's going to talk about in spiritual levels. What exactly is the difference in Shabbos and Yom Tov? So he says in line 18, okay, do as it's known should be Yom Tov Meir, Rak B'Shinas Moichin the Ima. Yom Tov, it shines only the level of Bina, the level of the intellect of Bina. Spheres of Bina, Shizel Inna Simcha. Bina is identified with the level of Simcha, like we say, Eim Habonim Smecha. The mother of the children rejoices. So the level of the mother, the level of Bina, which is in the Chachma Bina situation, Chachma is father and Bina is mother. So Yom Tov is a time of joy, Mayadim L'Simcha, because then it shines the level of Bina. Shabbos, Meir B'chinas Moichin the Abba on Shabbos, the intellect of the level of father of Chachma, that's what shines. Spheres of Chachma, the level of Chachma. Therefore, if on Yom Tov, which is Bina, we have to go up and have the Bittul and Shtachavah, so how much more so on Shabbos? And the Rebbe continues to ask line 21 of Yosef, and even more so it's not understood. The regular base on Mikdash, is the going up to the base on Mikdash on Yom Tov is to be able to see. The idea of vision is the idea of Chacham. In general, Chassidus associates the level of Shmiya, which is hearing, but also understanding. It's the level of Bina. Chachma is you're seeing the matter. The matter becomes revealed to you. It's a level of sight. Sight is higher than hearing. But even more so, sight has to do with Aliyah L'Regel. Because as we said, that the person comes up to see. He comes up 3 times a year to see, and that's why we said he bows down, because of his seeing in the Beis HaMikdash, that brings him to Bittul. So seemingly Shabbos, which is about Chachma, and Chachma is associated with seeing, should be about more about Aliyah L'Regel. So he says, line 23, Vin came now, what's the reason? Going up for the pilgrimage, Yom Tovim wasn't the 3 pilgrimage festivals were like Shabbos, Shubach, there's a Chachma, it's a level of Chachma. Here is that explanation. This is Yom Tov Simcha. That Yom Tov is the level of joy. The Simcha in Yana Gilul. And Simcha is the level of revelation. By Sharayin, like we see. Simcha Miskal Ba'adam in Yom Ke'elu, Shabbat Ragil, then the time of joy, a person reveals things that ordinarily he wouldn't be able to reveal. We've always given the example that an introvert, during a time of great joy, will start talking and entertaining and hugging and kissing everybody. As opposed to Shabbos, top of Yud Ches, that over there, it's not a time of revelation. It's not a time of simcha, so it's not a time of revelation. Afshin Yom Tainuk, though Shabbos' idea is the idea of delight and enjoyment and pleasure. Like it says, Shabbos, shall call Shabbos a delight. So in that level of delight, Tainuk has to do with the intellect of Chachman. So that's a higher level. Still in all, this is concealed. Okay, before it's time, let's explain in Kabbalah. Now all that's revealed is only the external part of Ati. In other words, this idea that the innermost level of Chaf, which is the innermost level connected with the innermost level of Ati, which is the inner level of Keser, that's now concealed even on Shabbos. Though Shabbos is the level of Chachma, but Primis Atik, Primis Abba, that's only a Mashiach type of experience. So that is the advantage that Yom Tov these days has over Shabbos. And because of that, the Aliyah the Regel was on Yom Tov. Though the revelation of Yom Tov is from the level of the that the revelation of Yom Tov is lower than the intellect of the Father, the Chacham, that shines in Shabbos. We call them still in all. Even the idea of the intellect and the Bina that shines at Yom Tov is the idea of joy. And joy, we know, Shapoid together, breaks through barriers and boundaries. Therefore, it shines in a revealed way down here below. Therefore, the Chazal said that there's no joy only through meat and through wine. And on Yom Tov, we have an obligation to be joyous. We must drink wine and we must bring the korbanos of the Shalmei Simcha. It's called the Shlomim. That's specifically brought to bring Simcha. In a similar vein, there's a halacha about eating meat and drinking wine on Yom Tov, because the joy cannot be like some transcendent inner state. It has to manifest itself. It's something that comes down revealed by a person and throughout the entire world. Therefore, going up to the base of Mikdash was only the times was only on Yom Tov. Also Lavoi, but in the future, Shazi or Shabbos Begili Primis Abish Primis Atik, then will shine in a revealed way. The level of the inner level of Chacham, which is the inner level of Atik. That's what it says about Mashiach's times. They'll all be satiated and will delight from your goodness. This will be in a perfect way and in a revealed way in the future. Therefore, we will go up to the pilgrimage festival to see the Beis Hamikdash and be seen in Beis Hamikdash every single Shabbos.